I'm literally sitting with the big dogs. This is Jagger, and this is Zeppelin. Obviously, big rock fans here. Now, this is their roadmap to success. I'm going to keep them in the shot for a little while by holding on the treats. Normally, I wouldn't let dogs paw at me like this, and this is actually an example of a problem that the dogs have. So we went over the escalating consequences, and I'd like the guardians, especially the parents, to use them to disagree with the dogs. And there's nothing wrong with one of the kids being in here with a snack or something. That creates a situation where it gives us an opportunity to practice. So we would, so remember, first thing is to hiss, second thing is to stand up abruptly, third thing is turn to face, march at them, fourth thing is a leash timeout. If you forgot how to do that, if you go to doggoneproblems.com and click on the dog training tips, there's a search box on the right side. You can type in escalating consequences and they'll come up here. Come here, buddy. Now you got to fight for it, huh? Come here, buddy, over here. All right, so let's talk about some of the things we went over in the session. I like the guardians. Right now, I notice the dogs invade their personal space, and it's because every time the dogs invade their personal space, the humans pet them. So sit, sit. So what I'd like the guardians to do, that was a good sit, buddy. I'll pay for that. That was a pretty funny one. So the more that we pet them with a purpose, the more the dogs are going to be inclined to sit in front of the humans to ask for attention, as opposed to doing this or nudging or jumping up on them. So petting with a purpose is something we also can search for on Dog Gun Problems. I have a bunch of videos for that. I'd also like to practice passive training. So if one of the dogs comes to us on his own, as long as he's not invading our space like this, I pet him and say, come. If the dog sits on its own, I'm going to pet it and say, sit. When it lays down, I'm going to pet it and say, crash, or whatever the command word is for crash. Just by simply rewarding the dogs for desired actions and behaviors and saying the command word will help them do it more and more often. Now, if he sits, let's see if we can do it here. Sit, sit. I'm just saying the command word. I'm saying it twice, but I'm not saying good sit or Zeppelin sit or good boy. I want to say just the command word. The more that I do that, the more it's associated and the more the dog can be counted on to do that in the future. Let me see. What else did we go over? We went over teaching the dog how to use the dog bed. I think the guardians remember how to do that. It's another tutorial video. You can search for dog bed and there'll be videos for that. Feeding. I'd like the guardians to start feeding the dogs in a structured, right now they're free fed. And because eating is a very primarily important activity for dogs, adding a little bit of structure to that on an activity that's going to be repeated will go a long ways towards helping them. So what we do is we put the food in the bowls. Up. Sit. We're going to put the food in the bowls, and then the humans are going to eat something first. Then we're going to invite Jagger to eat first because he's a senior dog. And then and when Jagger's done and he walks away, if there's food left in the bowl, we pick up the bowl, we dump the food out, we put the empty bowl back down. It's important to put the empty bowl back down. Then Jagger has to leave, and then we invite Zeppelin over, and while Zeppelin's eating, Jagger's not allowed to approach. When the humans are eating, the dog's not allowed to be within 7 feet of them, if they're at the table or if they're sitting here, down. Now, because he has a tendency like to lurch for treats, one of the things, an exercise you can do is just teach your dog not to do that is this. No. 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 Gentle. So you just pull it away anytime they start coming towards, especially if it's a furtive movement, and then you pull it away and then come back and keep on doing that. When you do put it in, say gentle or soft or whatever the word is you want to use. Now, another thing, if you're using a treat to lure a dog, right here within an inch or two of his face, it's appealing. Once I take it too far away, he's not interested in it. I mean, he's interested, but it's not about to happen. So whenever you're using a treat to motivate or manipulate a dog, always try to keep it within an inch or two of his face. Now, when I want to get the dogs to sit, let's get him to get up so I can show you. I use a hand motion, and so I have my hand cupped like I have a treat, and I have my hand not to the side. I'm just doing this so you can visualize. I want it parallel to the floor. When I go over in his head as an arc, not just up but over. You know, maybe you look good, buddy. We're filming this. Come on. Sit. As soon as he sits, I pop in his treat, I say the command word, and then I pet him under his chin. We're not always going to give a treat, so if we get him used to always getting that tickle under the chin, then he's more inclined to want to do that because at least he gets some sort of reward. I like the guardians to practice claiming their personal space. I like to see everybody have at least a 1 foot bubble of personal space. Since he's so big, we might go to like a 2 foot bubble. Now, if he is approaching, I know he's going to invade my 2 foot bubble, when he is 4 feet, I would hiss. Make sure you're hissing 1 time only per incident and doing it before the dog gets there. The more that we can teach him to delay gratification will help. Like if we put the food in his bowls and then have them sitting outside the kitchen, and then the human eats first, and there's nothing but air between them and the food, they're the ones developing the control. That self-control will help. Dogs are very instinctive creatures. They normally don't hesitate. They have to pee, they pee. They want to get the squirrel, they don't think about the traffic. They just run and get it. The door, also something you search for in dog problems, door exercise. So I like to have the guardians practice, and this is one where we really want to practice at least twice a day for a 7 to 10 day period. If you're every day, a couple of times a day, the acceleration is much faster. So what you might want to do is have your spouse or any friends come over and text you before they get to the door. So that way you get a chance to wash your hands, turn down the stove, get off the phone. When the person answers the door or rings the doorbell, you want to be able to stop and immediately give them your attention as opposed to having to do 3 other things or rushing about. Let me see what else. Sit. Having 2 dogs, I like to use something. There we go. Sit. I say coffees for closers for this. What I do is if I have 2 dogs and I say sit or come or down or whatever, I only give the first dog to do it the treat. That way creates a motivation for the dogs to want to do what we want them to do. But if I say come and he comes first and Jagger comes second, there's no motivation for Jagger to try to get there fast because he gets the same payment. Now, some of the rules we went over: no furniture for at least 30 days or as long as the problem's still going on. The humans can still go down to the dog's level. They just can't come up the dogs can't come to the humans level. Dogs sit in the order of their rank based on their height. Once we've passed the 30 days or whatever the period of time is, if mom or somebody wants to invite a dog up, we make the invitation ourselves, and we're making a decision for the dog, not the dog. Now, after the dog's transition, they'll come and sit and stare at the couch, and they're saying, if anyone has a problem with me getting on the couch, speak now or forever, hold your peace. And then they will jump up. So when they do, that's your opportunity to hiss, to say no. Other rules: that dogs have to sit before we go in or out of the door. I would recommend the guardians because she just let them out and then realized after she did it, she did. Put a little post-it note, sit. That way every time you open the door, it's right in your face. Right over here, we call this, we're calling this stage. We might change this to something else. We'll put a little post-it note above the stage and then toss the treats like I showed you. Let me see. I would have the kids practice teaching the dogs to come. When I do this, I have a triangle, or at least 3 or more people playing. One person's in charge. They get a point at the next person. When I call the dog, before I call the dog, I'm holding my hand like this. I don't want the dog to look at me and I'm going like this. I'm not ready for them. So I go like this. You can see I have nothing in my hand, but I have his full attention. And so then he comes so what I do is I say come once. The more you say a command, the less you mean it. If I say come, he won't come. So if I say come once, if he doesn't come, then I make a kissing sound. And I start lowering it to the floor. The lower you go, and go all the way to the floor if you have to, the lower you go, the more it's for the dog. There we go. So I had to go all the way down, but then he came over for it. As I do this, I start curving my hand so to prevent them from seeing that I have anything in my hand or don't. And when you're doing this, make sure that you have something in your hand for the first couple weeks. Really establish this before you start occasionally faking them out. But that's why I like to do this and then pet them afterwards, because they at least get some affection. Remember, when you pet a dog on top of the head, it facilitates the nose down. Petting a dog under the chin facilitates nose up. Proud dog has his nose up. So whenever possible, especially when they're doing a desired action or behavior, pet them under their chin. Now the dogs did kind of get into a little tiny bit of a scuffle, not a big deal. But one of the kids was trying to get one of the dogs to sit, the other dog, and they were holding a treat, the dog's trying to take it, and the other dog came in, and that's kind of what they got into. So make sure when you're doing that, at least initially, that we have the dogs working with them one at a time, or only one dog's close to that treat. Otherwise, it is appropriate for the other dog to growl and nip at the other dog, because you're trying to take my treat, you're trying to come into that. One thing we didn't talk about, but I guarantee happens, is I'm petting one dog, the other dog comes up, and we probably pet them both dogs, right? So we're letting the second dog steal from the first dog. So if I'm petting the first dog and the second dog comes up, I put my thumb and I hook their collar and I hold that dog at a stiff arm. And I continue giving this dog all my affection. When I get done with this dog, if this dog didn't protest, then I turn and give him my full attention. But if he protests, I don't give him any attention. He can't tell me what to do. But if you're petting one of your children because they got stung by a bee, or you're hugging her and the other one shoves its way in, you wouldn't allow them both to do that. So, all right, we'd like to recreate situations. Well, for other rules, you might want to train the dogs also to sit and wait for the humans to go up and down the stairs first. Also, don't walk around the dogs. Now, if he's asleep like this, we can walk around or over. But if he's standing, walk through them. They need to learn when the human's coming. My job as a dog is to defer away from their authority. Let me see, what else? When you have situations the dog doesn't know how to behave, like we talked about in the other video for the dining room, recreate the situation. Doesn't have to be just eating food there. It could be eating snacks here in the basement and other places. It could be other activities like going into her room, and one of the kids has some friends over, and they don't want the dogs in there. Well, we can close the door and keep the dogs out, but then the door is the authority figure. The better thing to do is use that third escalating consequence. Go in there, stand at the line that we're enforcing, take a step back, wait, and just the same thing we do in the door exercise. Anything I'm forgetting? I think I'm probably forgetting a lot because we cover a lot in 3 hours, but I want the guardian to call me or text me if she has any questions. Texting will be the fastest way to reach me. I don't care if it's 6 days from now or 6 years from now, I'm your guy. Usually I can help with a quick phone call or a quick text. If I don't hear from you, I assume everything's going great, so make sure you let me know if there's any problems. Hey buddy, can we get you on the camera for the end of this deal? Sit down here, buddy, so people can see how big you are. I'm a pretty tall guy. Sit. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.